Welcome back to Yaffee Live here on Talk Radio 102.3. By the way, if you can't catch us on the FM, we're online, WGOW.com or your iHeartRadio app, or just ask any of your smart devices. You can listen to the show live there or catch the podcast anywhere podcasts are available. So at this time every week, we speak with Brandon Lewis. He is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. You can read that at TennesseeConservativeNews.com. Brandon, how are you today, sir?
Outstanding. Glad to be on the show, Yaffee.
All right. So, we have a lot to talk about because the assembly is still going on, the Tennessee General Assembly. Lots of bills going through, including some on illegal immigration. Although there was one bill that would transport illegal aliens to sanctuary cities that apparently was killed in a House subcommittee. Can you talk about this and talk about why?
Yeah, so, essentially what it says is that if an illegal alien who is in a detention center ends up being held for longer than a certain amount of time, then they could transport the illegal alien to a holding facility. And maybe even if they weren't there for even another elapsed 48 hours, they could take them to a sanctuary city. And so the interesting thing is, Republicans have talked tough on illegal immigration this entire session, but almost all of the preventative measures, again, this session, like the last 4.5 years, have been killed. And the thing that I find the most interesting is the vote was 3-0 with Representative Dennis Powers marked himself as present, not voting. I call that the coward's way out. And then Rick Eldridge and Jeff Burkhart participated in the conversation but did not vote either, and because they probably don't want it on their records. There's not a better wedge issue for someone to have against an incumbent than illegal immigration. It's so easy to explain. Tennesseans have cried out for reform for 4.5 years. They've been ignored. And what ended up happening is that John Crawford voted with the Democrats, and he was really the lone Republican vote, but because there were two other Democrats on the committee, the thing failed.
So, okay. So why were you surprised that some of these Republicans did that? It sounds like they're kind of used to this, but I don't know the particular members or their history. So, do they have a history of voting against this kind of stuff? Or
Yes. It has just been, there are so few conservatives in the legislature. People talk a good game at Lincoln Day dinners and Republican events and harump and all that good stuff. But when it comes time to actually vote, they do not do it. It has not happened. And that all is because of the heavy-handed way the legislature deals with people that dissent. For example, Jody Barrett is coming over to my house later tonight, and he's a state rep that Republican leadership has spent a bunch of money attacking their own Republican members because he's outspoken on illegal immigration and he's outspoken on a number of other issues. And Cameron Sexton and Randy McNally punish conservatives, taking them off committee, killing their bills, things of that nature, if they don't like them. Because by contrast, when they start speaking out, and when they speak out in a way that resonates with the exact wishes of the GOP primary voters, they get punished. And so the corporations and the special interests get what they want, and the conservative constituents get left holding the bag. And interestingly on this, Yaffee, of course, the State Department of Safety comes down to kill this bill, and that's Governor Lee, right? So you got Lee, Sexton, and McNally all working against these illegal immigration reform bills. And when Warner asked them, well, do you even know how many illegal aliens we have caught and released? Do you even know how many illegal aliens are in the state? The Department of Safety sent him an email and said, we have no idea about any of this stuff, basically, and then tried to rescind the email, and he had the notification that somebody tried to recall the email. And so they don't want to be seen as what they are, which is primarily inept and also, I would say, enabling this to continue in the state.
Well, did any of these members explain why they voted present or why they voted against it?
Well, some of them talk about funding for detention, but, if they're in jails, which they are right now in Tennessee in mass numbers, we talked to Austin Garrett about that in an interview here recently. It costs $90 a day, whether they're in the jail or in another detention center. It's not like a huge expense to hold them for a little while longer. And further, you go, okay, it's expensive to transport illegal aliens to a sanctuary city. But in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, if I got a 15-passenger van and I'm paying somebody, I don't know, let's just take a number, $30 an hour, and it takes them 10 hours to get somewhere and back, you add all that up, it's probably not more than $1,000. Well, at $90 a day, one illegal alien that stays in the jail past 9 days, we've got our money back. And so it would be very cost effective. It's just the government doesn't want to do it. Leadership doesn't want to do it. And so they kill the bills.
I mean, it reminds me of, Florida and Texas were the ones that kind of started this trend of flying out or driving out illegal immigrants to sanctuary cities. And honestly, I think that was one of the most effective political moves of those two governors, because it really highlighted the issue of illegal immigration, and it even got Democrat mayors and Democrat governors to look at the problem here. So it doesn't just affect Republican states. It's kind of a shame that Tennessee wouldn't get on board with that.
No, we lead from behind, if ever. It is only when there is a huge, clamor and cry. And so it is my sincere hope, and this is a project I'm going to work on in 2026, for us to get rid of Cameron Sexton as Speaker of the House. He's only got about 5,100 304 and 44 primary voters. And as we learned in the Hazelwood race, there comes a point at which all the money in the world in a small list doesn't make that big of a difference if you've got grassroots folks knocking doors. And if the truth finally gets out about his record, I think he'd be very easy to defeat. And he doesn't have a lot of love back in his home district. In fact, he's been accused over and over again of not living in his district. He educates his child in Nashville. His wife, to my knowledge, works in Nashville. They got a house in Nashville. People say he's hardly ever at home. He's just got a little condo that he rents in Crossville and is rarely there. And so I think if we could change the leadership out, we would see a lot different outcomes on these illegal immigration issues.
Now, do you feel like this is mostly a House leadership problem? It's my understanding,
No.
The Senate leadership
no,
is...
it's on both sides. It's on both sides. It sounds awful, but Cameron Sexton might be slightly more conservative than Randy McNally, and they're both, and even Randy McNally and Sexton might be slightly more conservative than Bill Lee, but none of them are out there doing what they talk about on the trail. It's just a bunch of talk.
Speaking with Brandon Lewis, he is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. Well, I guess we could get to at least a little bit of good news here on illegal immigration, because there is a bill that is going to prevent illegal immigrants and convicted felons from registering to vote in Tennessee. That did pass a House committee. So are you optimistic about that one?
Well, yeah, I think this one will make it. Most of these bills, Yaffee, that are after the fact, like once somebody has murdered, killed, or raped somebody, taking away, there's no corporate interest that is begging for cheap labor, begging for more clients, begging for more educational dollars, right? There's no big, huge contingency. So whenever they pass an illegal immigration reform bill that really doesn't prevent illegal immigration, it just punishes or reduces the rights of the folks that are already in the state, that stuff always passes. For the most part, unless it's being carried by somebody that's conservative that leadership is trying to punish, which is often the case. But yeah, all this stuff, I'm glad it happens. But the issue to me is, okay, well, if they weren't here in the first place, we wouldn't even have to pass legislation for them not to vote. And if we made Tennessee inhospitable enough, that wouldn't happen. And in that same vein, Janice Bowling and Monty Fritz brought a bill that was completely killed by Farrell Hale, Adam Lowe, Mark Pody, Bill Powers, and Kerry Roberts, that said from the state level that illegal aliens have to prove their citizenship or they have to pay tuition. And this didn't leave it up to local school boards like Bo Watson and Lambertsville does. And so to me, these people are now going to have on their record, if somebody wants to run against them, they can truthfully say that they voted for taxpayer-funded education of illegal aliens and be completely truthful. And so you talk about falling on the sword for leadership. These people just did it because that's like giving a primary opponent a golden key to the city.
Brandon Lewis is the founder of the Tennessee Conservative. So, I mean, there was some good news, but you said there were some problems there. I mean, we have this bill as well. Fortunately, it's kind of similar to illegal immigration, but Tennessee Republicans kill bill requiring driving tests to be administered in English only. So 1 out of 3 today, I guess, did well. So these two didn't.
Yeah, 1 out of 3. And, and this is another preventative bill, right? Like if you can't get a driver's license, you probably don't want to come to Tennessee. And what did they say? The corporations came down there, like Toyota and Nissan and Volkswagen, and they said, well, these foreign executives that are coming here, they won't be able to take the test. Well, they should have done a carve-out. They could have done anything that would have alleviated that specific situation. So they probably pointed to 1 out of 20,000 people and said, because 1 out of 20,000 people can't do this, then we have to let the 19,000 in that are illegal aliens to get driver's license on the roads. And you want to talk about stories that are commonly reported, and everyone that's listening to this has probably experienced this. Folks that come here from Latin America, they get in vehicular accidents all the time. They kill people. They don't have insurance. They wreck folks' cars, all kinds of stuff. And so this would have prevented that, but Republicans again killed it. And so I don't see how leadership goes and looks their constituents in the face and tells them anything that they're doing with legal immigration when folks like that are voting in that way. And it was Representatives Hawk, Howell, Russell, and Wright, and they have bad voting records in general, and they voted against it. It was 5-3. I mean, these votes aren't even close. This is Republican-controlled, and the votes aren't even close.
I mean, I'm just trying to figure out what is their reasoning? I mean, you're hearing a reasoning because it's kind of
the reason is 90-some-odd% of leadership's money comes from left-leaning corporations. That's the reason.
Well, I mean, I get that's the real reason, but what are they saying? Like, what is their? Are they even trying to explain?
The leadership has and really state and local officials in general have this remarkable shield around them, and the shield is the shield of ignorance. And that is most people, not the folks that listen to your show, not the people that subscribe to the Tennessee Conservative, most people can't tell you anything that happened in the legislature this whole session. You could pull over 100 people and maybe even screen them for just the registered voters that vote occasionally. They don't know anything. And so when they go speak to people that are uneducated about these issues, they can pull the wool over their eyes very easily because nobody does any research. Hardly anybody keeps up. It's just a handful of news junkies, a handful of folks that are uber concerned about their state, that are actually good citizens, that are civically engaged, but that is a very small minority. And so it's a combination of having money coming directly from the corporations and having a very uneducated electorate is what allows them to continually put forth these narratives that are untrue.
Brandon Lewis, he's the founder of the Tennessee Conservative, where you can get all that news we were just talking about that you need to keep up with. Real quick, before I let you go, you obviously have a lot of problems with Governor Bill Lee. Are you optimistic that maybe a Governor Marsha Blackburn will do better? I mean, what do you think?
Well, the bar is pretty low.
Okay.
So I was eating with a friend of mine last night, or actually drinking wine is more appropriately the truth. And we were talking about these issues, and he's somebody that's, pretty civically engaged himself and has a lot of influence in the county. And, the thing I kept coming back to is whenever we can make the government suck less, I'm happy. And that's really about all we can do. We can slow down. It almost seems like we can slow down the destruction of our liberties and freedoms, and we can make it a little bit better. But there doesn't seem to be a large contingency of Republicans that are really serious about really reforming it and making it better. You would think some of Trump's massive action and his stubborn approach to do the will of the people, even with all the pushback coming from the swamp, would be contagious to Sexton or McNally or Lee, but the answer is no. And so I don't know how strong the conservative moorings are with Blackburn. It's hard to say. And one other thing I will say is when you've been in a position in politics, when you've been in a body long enough, and been in a body and been in a body and been in a body, but not an executive, you tend to not make very firm decisions because you've not been in a position to direct and drive the bus. You've been in a position to compromise and to cooperate and to not speak out and to not buck the system. That's typically how you get rewarded. So I just hope that her experience being in those situations in Republican circles hasn't conditioned her to be, kind of a corporate country club Republican, which is what we've got with Bill Lee.
Brandon Lewis, really appreciate you joining the show as always. I know we'll talk to you again next week.
All right, buddy. I appreciate you. Hang in there.